So Bill Gates was in Australia at the Lowry Institute, and he said this about the vax, and I'm going to tell you why this is interesting.
Antibodies, antivirals. We think we can also have very early in an epidemic a thing you can inhale that will mean that you can't be infected, a blocker, an inhaled blocker. We also need to fix the 3 problems with vaccines. The current vaccines.
So he's just announcing a whole new thing that nobody ever heard of. A guy, by the way, again, a college dropout is talking about medical stuff that I've never heard of, as if he's a leading researcher on medical stuff. He's not. Again, he's not a doctor. He's not a virologist. He's not a scientist. He's a college dropout. Why is he talking as if he's a doctor? Because he has a lot of money. That's why. And then so he gives this, whoever, Lowry Institute, he gives the money. I'm just guessing this is how this works. It's like he gives the WHO money. He gives everybody money. And then they invite him to come talk because you're so smart. We want to hear what you have to say. Thanks for the $1 billion.
You know what it sounds like is when Elon Musk would hype something and then it's going to take another 2 months and then another 2 months.
Yes.
Like a hyperloop.
So now he's hyping this new thing that you inhale that's going to give you immunity from a virus. What?
Wasn't that Glass Onion movie? Remember Glass Onion? Did you see that?
No.
On Netflix? They get in the it's very bizarre because in the beginning everybody's wearing masks. I guess they made it during the pandemic. The scene's insane. And then the rich guy comes out, shoots something in their mouths so that they'll be fine. They don't need to worry about masks.
Really?
Now, I don't even understand why the scene's in there. You could have just had them not wear masks, like not even deal with it. They did this thing where, because the guy's a jerk off, the rich guy too with the character, so I don't get why. Does he have the cure of COVID? It's very strange, but it sounds exactly like what he just said.
So listen to the next part. Watch this. Hang on.
Antibodies, antivirals. We think we can also have very early in an epidemic a thing you can inhale that will mean that you can't.
I like how he says we think. You're sitting around brainstorming ideas on medicine? Really, Bill? That's what you're doing?
He probably texts from Epstein Island to the scientists. Hey, keep working.
We think we can develop
Jeffrey and I.
Yeah.
Be infected, a blocker, an inhaled blocker. We also need to fix the 3 problems with vaccines. The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection. And they have very short duration, particularly in the people who matter, which are old people. And every one of the...
Bill Gates, first of all, I hope he loses his YouTube channel for saying that stuff.
Yeah, because the vaccines are effective. They slow the spread.
They're safe.
They're for everyone, especially children.
They're for everyone. And you'll feel so, when you get your vaccine, your heart will swell with pride.
You might even have Joe Scarborough hair.
You might even. So I don't know how he got his, so he's super, it seems like he's super, what's the term? Shitting on the vax. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
He's super shitting on the vax right there. Did you hear all that horrible stuff he said about it? Here it comes.
The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection. And they have very short duration, particularly in the people who matter, which are old people. And every one of those things is fixable. In fact, doing that work is going to help vaccinology very, very broadly.
Thanks.
So I don't know why he's talking, but again, but what I do know why he's talking about is because he's like all billionaires. He is a fucking megalomaniac who wants to control things. And I don't know if you noticed, he's really, what's the term? He's shitting on the vaccine. Now, why would he be doing that? After reaping huge profits selling BioNTech shares, Bill Gates trashes the effectiveness of the COVID vaccines. What? So now I gave Robbie a hard time on the show the other day for not knowing anything about COVID. And I stand by that ball busting. But he did a good job here. So something happened. They woke up He woke up over at Rising, and Brianna Joy Gray also does a good job on this. Now, Kim Iverson used to be over there, and she was always the person bringing the truth about COVID, and everyone else at Rising had no idea what was going on and was spreading the establishment talking points on the regular. Is that
the hill you want to die on, Jimmy?
That's the hill. So now I'm showing this because I think they did a really good job with this, so I'll let you watch this. This is going to be a stunner.
Bill Gates was a major, I think it's fair to say, major proponent of mRNA vaccine technology. He was an investor in BioNTech, which developed the mRNA vaccine for Pfizer. We were just doing some digging, and we see that he actually sold a lot of those shares at a, how much profit was that?
10x. So he invested $55 million.
He invested $55 million. Can you imagine investing $55 million? After you make $55 million, wouldn't you just retire?
Investing an entire Jon Stewart on
investing an entire Jon Stewart's net worth into a BioNTech vaccine company. $55 million. He invests. How did he do? He got the return on that 10 times over. His money got 10 times over. That's what she just said. 10x. So that would be around $500 million. I'm not a math surgeon.
In BioNTech back in 2019.
He invested $55 million in 2019. What was about to happen? What was about to frickin' happen? I don't know. I can't think of anything.
And it's now worth north of $550 million.
So invested $55 million, now worth $555 million. Wow. And then he cashed some of it out. I don't know how much, but they say.
That guy's pretty smart. He should talk about vaccine.
Some stock. What was it in at the end of last year, I believe it was, with the share price over $300 a share, which represented a huge gain for him over when he invested. So yeah, he certainly has profited a great deal.
Let's follow that trajectory. Invests heavily in BioNTech. mRNA vaccines, great. This is the future. This is, he talked about the vaccine timeline and how, we could develop it faster. We might have to cut some corners on safety, but it could be developed faster. All in, sells it, makes a huge amount of money. Now it's like, yeah, it's okay. It could be better. But what we really need is this breath spray.
Yeah, when you put it like that, Robbie, it doesn't sound
I don't mean to sound unreasonable, but.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very well said, very put together, and thanks for that information. Well, could you? Bill Gates is now. If I would have said that stuff, people would be calling me anti-vax. What Bill Gates said. If I said that stuff, they get my YouTube channel taken down. If I said that stuff, but now Bill Gates is saying it now. Why? Because he sold his stock.
Bill Gates, it sounds like the hype of like a video game, and then they do all the same thing, except it's just your health.
Yes. Yeah.
But the same cycle of like hype, disappointment, hyping a new thing. That sucks. Here's the new thing. But it's your health. That's why I love our private medical for-profit pharmaceutical. That's the joy of it, I guess.
So. Okay, I forget what I was going to say now. Hang on. All right, so let's just go to this next. Should the guy who's got a seat at the WHO advising us on COVID policy, which is what Bill Gates is doing, everywhere he goes, he gets a seat. Should we know that guy had invested $55 million into the goddamn BioNTech vaccine? Shouldn't we know that? Shouldn't he have to wear that on his shirt as he goes out to talk about COVID and the vaccines? He should. Okay.
What's going to be required of people? The Biden administration tried to require people to get this. Doesn't it? Yeah. Shouldn't it be known at least when there are hundreds of millions of dollars of financial interest at stake for the people advising these decisions?
Yes.
Yes.
We talked
their tune changes, it follows the money.
Did you hear him? And their tune changes, it follows the money. Like he's surprised. I know.
What does Robbie want to punish success?
He actually comes back and says, I don't want to punish success.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, you don't want to be out of the institute or whatever the hell.
But it's just funny. He goes, it just follows the money.
I want to ask every libertarian this, like, how come all these huge billionaires, they all get to be libertarians, but me down here, I have to either be I guess a Democrat or go throw myself off a bridge. Like, it's only for the richest guys. Everybody else don't get to be a libertarian.
Yes. I love his chagrin. Turns out money has been influencing this COVID vaccine thing all along.
Money influences Bill Gates.
Really? You mean the pothead comedian has been saying it for 2 years?
It's like the invisible.
It's like, oh my God. Yeah, the big pharma people are evil and only ruled by money and profits.
Wait, are you telling me the invisible hand of the market has in fact become visible?
Yeah. So until this point, Kurt, they're just doing it because they want to end the pandemic.
Does it dawn on Robbie that the thing he's saying now, which he should have been saying the whole time,
he wasn't.
Bill Gates is only allowed to say it because he's got $1 billion goddamn dollars.
That's right.
And he has to now slowly, the sunrise comes up over Knowledge Mountain for him.
Well, now Bill Gates doesn't. He's now, what's the term? He's shitting on the vaccine while he props up this new thing, this thing we can inhale. That's a blocker. How much money did? Question. How much money do you have invested in the new thing that you inhale and block? I'd like to know, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be mandated somehow going forward.
Oh, I'm going to be in line. Get it at midnight the first day.
So Bill Gates didn't have to tell anybody that hey, by the way, I stand to make about $500 million if we mandate all this stuff. It's going to really be $500 million for me.
It doesn't work.
It doesnent blockchain. So, and I can't believe he could say, well, let's watch the rest of this.
A few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, we talked about that story where the new booster, this isn't an argument against boosters, but it's an argument against this new booster that was supposed to offer more protection against the current variant, in fact, offered less protection. And then you dig a little deeper, and if the government has paid $5 billion for this new booster that wasn't actually more effective than the booster
and
that
the CDC's not happy about that.
It's not
just all the conspiracy theory kooks out there. The CDC itself is like, wait a minute, you didn't tell us about that.
This is a grift. These companies are.
Mark it down. What's the fucking date today? January 30th.
Oh.
Billionaire-funded news outlets finally figured out that the big pharma thing and COVID is a grift.
The day the music died.
This
for
is
Robbie
it.
Sove.
They get fat. So there it is.
Drove his Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
They finally figured out that the people who put asbestos in baby powder and then sold it to poor people, the people who put tainted AIDS stuff in blood clotting stuff and sent it to poor countries knowing it was giving people AIDS, those same people who sold you Vioxx knowing it was going to kill you and give you a heart attack, those people who got half the country hooked on heroin, you mean they would somehow do nefarious shit around COVID and the vaccines?
I always thought they really get it together when it comes to that.
That's what I thought.
They
would start being
they're
nice.
A cartel, basically, every other thing. But when it comes to something really important that they can't be sued for, that's when they get real moral.
That they can't be.
That's when some things are more important than profit, finally. When they can't be sued.
When they can't be sued. When they can't be sued, that's when you get your morality. So I'm loving this segment that they're doing. I'm really enjoying it. Let's see if there's more.
Like, wait a minute, you didn't tell us about that.
This is a grift. These companies are extracting money, taxpayer money, as it were, to pay for medical treatments that are not indicated by medical professions and, in fact, are yet less useful than what we already have. At the same time, and I talked about this in my radar, the Biden administration is opening its doors, its revolving doors, to people from these various industries like.
So I just want to let. I'm glad everybody's catching up to speed.
A couple of years.
The head of the vaccine department at the FDA, the two heads who were there for 31, who was there for 32 years, resigned over the original boosters. So that was back in September of 2021.
Oh, that freak, as my friend Joe Scarborough told me.
So that was back in September 2021. And this is how long it's taken for everybody else to catch on board that there's some nefarious shit happening.
I don't think it has. I think a bunch of them figured it out way earlier, but they just now feel
they were afraid to say something.
Enough. That's what I think.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think. I don't know about
there are people when I see people like Neil deGrasse Tyson go on that show and say that stuff, I'm like, no, they really believe it.
No, yeah, he's a punk. But I mean, a bunch of news people that follow this stuff, a bunch of them are like, well, I shouldn't say that. Like, they just have that built. It really is true, that Noam Chomsky thing. They just know what to
they have
say.
The internal censor. Okay.
You want to get ahead, right? You don't want to not get ahead in your career, right?
Correct.
Zients, who is the new
so now she's going to complain about the regulatory capture, right? She's going to talk about the
she has for a bit, right?
The revolving door. It was Kim Iverson.
To people from these various industries, like Jeff Zients, who is the new chief of staff for Joe Biden as Ron Klain exits, who has spent his entire career profiting at the kinds of companies, investing in these kinds of companies that have been overbilling the government, overcharging the government for Medicare and Medicaid payments, and extracting these exact kind of overpayments. It is an enormous grift, and a grift that is incredibly common. Pharmaceutical companies have been trying to trick doctors and extract overpayments since time immemorial. Occasionally they get these taps on the wrist where they have to pay these settlements. But on the whole, they get away with it. And the idea that the Biden administration is now
2.5 years it took for these kind of conversations. Now, tip of the hat, Kim Iverson was always pushing the envelope at the Hill. So God bless, but you know, they got rid of her. So, but here it is.
Who runs the Hill?
I don't know who the people are who run the Hill. But I know it was owned by a billionaire. I don't know if it still is. But
could somebody get a call to the Rising because they're going off the reservation?
They're going off. I don't know if you can say that.
Call Joe Hill. I don't think he's going to be happy about
because
this.
Mr. Hill, Mr. Hill, they're not being friendly to Big Pharma. So this was great to see. I mean, this is really great to see, and I just thought, shouldn't we have always been saying this? Shouldn't we always, every conversation about the vaccine should have sounded like this? Like, hey, we know these guys are criminals. Where are they lying? And it turns out they were lying. They were lying about everything. They were lying about masks. They were lying about natural immunity. They were lying about herd immunity. They were lying about the vaccine stopping transmission. They were lying about the boosters. They were hiding information. What didn't they lie about? They were lying. They said if you said the virus came from Wuhan, you were racist. So, but by the way, I have to tell you that vaccine is safe and effective, and it will slow the spread and contraction of the virus, and it will keep you from getting seriously ill or hospitalized or dead. It is fantastic.
Yeah. I can't wait for that spray.
I can't wait for that spray. Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm gonna get a few more boosters before that, but
I'll definitely get a few more boosters.
Day one, I'll have it 10.
But I want that spray. I want to invest in that spray. Here we go.
Saying we want one of those guys to be in a senior leadership position here at the White House. It's deeply disturbing.
Yeah, it is deeply disturbing. You got to follow the money a little bit. Like that's not. It's not. I'm not demonizing.
He's not demonizing.
Why does he have to qualify what he's saying? Because he's going to be in trouble with who?
I don't know, but he's like, I'm not demonizing people who, because that's what they'll say. He knows the bad faith attacks that will come at him. He goes, I'm not demonizing people for success or making money. So he knows, because those are bad faith attacks. Okay, but anyways, good job to them. It's nice to have company telling the truth about Big Pharma. The jumping off point should have always been Big Pharma are lying psychopathic criminals, because that's what they are.
But I'm scared now.
And Fauci is a psychopathic lying criminal. You know, if you see that movie, The Dallas Buyers Club, with Matthew McConaughey, about how they couldn't get the drugs they needed to treat AIDS people because the government was standing in between. And you know who the bad guy was in that movie, in The Dallas Buyers Club? Dr. Fauci. He was the bad guy in that movie, but since Big Pharma owns the media, they don't want you to know that, so you don't know that. So you don't know that. And Matthew McConaughey's not going to tell you. He's a good boy.
Is he?
Well, did he tell you?
I didn't see the Dallas Buyers Club.
Well, I'm just saying, has he been on the TV saying, hey, everybody shouldn't be listening to this Fauci? I know something about this guy. I was the star of Dallas Buyers Club, and he was the asshole in the movie. Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, Tempe, Arizona, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, and a lot more places. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member while you're there. You get access to all of our stuff. See you then.